She was dead until she showed up at her own funeral. The incredible story of Noela Rukundo. Do you believe in horror stories that seem straight out of a movie? Get ready for the unbelievable. Noela Rukundo was declared dead and yet showed up at her own funeral. In just a few seconds, you'll discover how a macabre plot and a brutally ingenious plan turned into one of the greatest shocks of our time. Stay tuned for a dive into the curiosity and fear that defined her life. In 2016, Noela Rukundo, a resident of Melbourne, Australia, was kidnapped and threatened with death by hired assassins, contracted by her own husband, Belenga Kalala. Noela Rukundo never imagined her fate would be shaped by fear, and certainly never thought terror would come from someone so close. In 2016, her life turned into a scientific nightmare when she was kidnapped on orders from her own husband. How do we explain the morbid curiosity that arises when we realize that those we love can also be the source of terror? Belenga Kalala had hired assassins to ensure she disappeared forever. Imagine the psychological tension of being forcibly taken, unsure of what comes next, knowing that the person you trusted the most orchestrated this entire plot. Fear seeped into every breath, but something even darker was about to be revealed. This is just the beginning of a story that challenges the boundaries of human understanding. After being kidnapped, Noela was taken to an unknown location, where the kidnappers revealed that her husband had ordered her murder and threatened to kill her. Taking Noela to a hidden location, kidnappers made it clear that she had no escape. Palpable fear filled the air, heightened by the most horrifying revelation of all. Her own husband, the one she shared her life with, planned her end. Scientific terror doesn't just involve the supernatural, but the real, the human mind capable of such atrocities. How would she cope with the dread of knowing her life was in the hands of strangers, on the orders of someone she loved? Every detail the kidnappers shared sounded like the final blow to her psyche. With each new word, the reality of fear gained more power, turning into a suffocating shadow. However, at that moment of extreme terror, something even more enigmatic was to come. The kidnappers, however, decided not to kill her and released her after 2 days, providing proof of the conspiracy against her husband. Terror, however, took an unexpected turn. Against all odds, kidnappers chose not to carry out the execution. They allowed Noela to live, releasing her after 2 days of captivity. Imagine the scientific curiosity that ignites when trying to understand what led them to change their minds. The fear did not dissipate but transformed into something more enigmatic. Why let her live? Before leaving, the men handed Noela undeniable evidence of her husband's conspiracy, as if guiding her into a new reality. The science of survival involves unpredictable factors, and Noela was about to discover that terror was far from over. The return to her home promised an even more unsettling conclusion. Noela secretly returned home and showed up at her own funeral, shocking her husband and all those present. Curiosity reached its peak when Noela, alive and with evidence in hand, walked into her own funeral. Imagine the fear that swept through the room, silent terror that infiltrated the minds of those present. Belenga, who believed he had rid himself of his wife, was paralyzed when he saw her in the flesh, defying all expectations. It wasn't just an unexpected appearance, it was the embodiment of fear that transcends the ordinary, turning the setting into a true scientific terror scenario. Noela didn't need to say a word. Her presence spoke volumes, leaving everyone present in absolute shock. The science of psychological terror was complete, the return of the dead to the realm of the living. But the story, despite its intensity, still had one final act to unfold. Belenga Kalala was arrested, confessed to the crime, and was sentenced to 9 years in prison, while Noela overcame the situation and started a new life. The final unraveling of this story is a fascinating study in resolution and recovery. Belenga Kalala, finally confronted with the evidence and impact of the terror he caused, confessed his crime and faced a 9-year sentence. Curiosity here is how justice fits into the science of fear and betrayal. Kalala was reduced to a mere pawn in a psychological terror game, with his confession bringing a form of resolution. Meanwhile, Noela, who survived the chaos, embarked on a new life, an example of resilience in the face of terror. The fear, a constant in her life, now became a driving force for her recovery and renewal. However, the scientific terror of the situation remains, with questions about how such deep traumas shape the psyche and lives of individuals. And so, Noela's story continues, marked by a curiosity about how horror can be overcome and transformed. So, what did you think of this incredible story? What would you do if you were in Noela's place? Share your thoughts and feelings in the comments. If you were fascinated by this mystery, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any details of our upcoming revelations. Be sure to watch the next video on the end screen to keep exploring the intriguing world of scientific terror and stories that defy logic. See you next time.